Hello and welcome to the Gwladys Beat Podcast. After a week where results seem to be going our way and there's a little bit of optimism around the next few games with the FA Cup coming up and two seemingly quite winnable games at home, Everton still managed to let us down. So to try and pick some sort of positives from it and try not to wallow too much in our own impending doom, I'm joined by Andre McGrady and Dawn Keogh. How are you doing?
Subdued.
I think you should have invited other people on if you want some positivity, mate.
Yeah, they couldn't make it today, unfortunately. But yeah, so obviously we'll probably have to start where we don't want to start with the game against Wolves yesterday. So obviously, I think going into it, we'd had a few good results through the week. We tend to have better results when we're not playing than when we are, but everyone around us had lost or dropped points, and it seemed like we could just sort of start pulling away with a win, put us in a bit of good spirit for the Newcastle game and then the FA Cup game to come, but that wasn't to be. I personally think, obviously, the Richarlison chance early doors was a good chance, and you score that, who knows how the rest of the game goes, but it just seemed to follow quite a similar pattern to the last few games in particular. So I don't know how you saw it, Dawn, from where you were sat, but did you think any different?
I couldn't see it from the bar, to be honest. I'm joking. Yeah, I mean that it does follow a similar pattern, doesn't it? In that we start off quite well, something happens, and then everything goes downhill from there. I think in that situation, Richarlison's got to step across his man, because then he's either in for a better angle, he's closer to the goal, he can see more and a bit more away from the keeper, or it's a penalty because the defender's got to take him down. And I think when he misses that, like he has a couple of other good chances as well that he didn't take. And a player of potentially his caliber has got to be finishing them. But it's a confidence thing, isn't it? So you think, like, in a lot of positions on the pitch, there's no confidence at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it, Andrea? It's that one in particular. He didn't really run through with any conviction. The ball sort of bobbles off his thigh, and he tightens his own angle, really, doesn't he? Rather than in previous seasons where he maybe lets it run across him a little bit more onto his right foot. It is a lack of confidence all around the team, isn't it, Andrea?
Oh yeah, he's screaming out for one just to go in. And he's had hard lines in the last few games, like one's ruled out for VAR and stuff, and the penalty and that. But he is screaming out even for one to just go in off his heel or something, So, but yesterday was just a shock to the system for me. It was just, a lot of people were thinking, oh, we'll win our home games, we'll be fine. But I don't think it's going to turn out like that. I listened to Frank's post-match interview, and I couldn't agree any less with him, to be honest. It was he said he thought we control the game. I just couldn't see that at all. I think to me, was it Neves and Moutinho probably had the easiest 90 minutes they'll have all season. And like you say, I think nothing's going right for any of them at the minute. If it's not Michael Keane slicing one in one end, it's nothing just seems to be working. And we're playing 3 in midfield against Spurs, that's not working. We're playing 2 in midfield yesterday, that's not working. All I'm hoping for is we kind of stumble across some kind of winning system and winning formation to help us win a game, because at the minute we just don't even look like we're winning a game.
Yeah, I think I can see what Frank was saying in terms of obviously the first half was significantly better than the second, wasn't it? It's just in as much as they didn't dominate the game for the entire time, but it fell into a similar pattern. The whole game fell into a pattern of just. It looked like we tried to match them up with 5 at the back, obviously, and then it was just passing around the back, wasn't it? But I don't think either team particularly controlled it. I think both teams were just happy to let the other have possession, and then in the second half, when they came out, obviously with a bit of a kick up the backside. As soon as they started trying to get their midfield into the game, as you say, it must have been the easiest 90 minutes that they've had, but definitely 45, because they just absolutely schooled Decore and Van der Beek. They just couldn't get near them, and it just looked, I know at the end they did have more players on the pitch, but it looked for the whole of that second half like they did. The shape, the positivity on the ball. I mean, I understand. I don't know whether Alan had a knock or whether we're just trying to rest him for future games, but neither Van der Beek or Decore seem to have a tackle in them, and that's a massive issue, isn't it? You need to get your foot in the middle of the pitch. You can't just rely on that back five to keep the ball at the back of the net, because quite frankly, they're not good enough to do that anyway.
Yeah, I think we've been saying all season, haven't we, that the centre midfielders we've got, whichever mix of them that you pick, you need 3 in there, because even Decore, I mean, he probably had his worst game for us yesterday, but you bring the best out of him when he's got 2 other men in there, with one who's a bit more creative and with Alan in there, and if it's not Delph, there's no replacement for Alan. Whether we play 5 at the back or not, I don't think we've got the players to play 5 at the back. I think we need to go back to a back 4, but we need to get 3 in midfield. And Alan, they slated him, didn't they, after Spurs, saying, "Oh, that lad can't run." And he can't run, that's why he needs 2 other players in there with him. But we do look a better team with 3 in the middle and him being one of them.
I think 4 at the back is definitely the one as well, because you can't be having John Joe Kenny playing your 3rd centre half, can you? Come on, it's not the right thing to do, is it, poor kid?
No, I mean, I don't know what's up with Mina. Obviously, I don't think anyone ever knows what's up with Mina, but you just sort of rely on having either your 2 best centre halves or your 2 best strikers available at any given time, don't you? And Calvert-Lewin seems to be dropping out every week with illness or some sort of injury or some unknown sort of reason for not playing, but not having him up top, for as much as maybe when he has played this season, he hasn't been particularly effective. You need your best players on the pitch, don't you? You need them players who are going to get you a goal, because one of the biggest things for me the other day was we didn't look like, I couldn't see where a goal was going to come from, no matter how long we played, to be honest. I know Richarlison thinks he's a centre forward, and possibly he is, alongside the Calvert-Lewin, but it's just, aside from that, it was just so predictable and slow, and you can't give players confidence. That's the thing. You can't just tell them to go and be confident on the pitch, but you need someone to go and grab the game, don't you? And I think Anthony Gordon's the only player in that entire team who tries things now. He tries to commit a man and tries a ball which isn't the obvious ball. I think he had a really good first half, and then second half with the team, he just sort of wilted as nothing was coming off, and you could see the head starting to drop. But you can't have heads dropping at this stage of the season, can you?
No, you need someone to grab the game by the short and curlies, don't you? And like Anthony Gordon, he is the only one who keeps going. And I thought he just looked knackered on Sunday. Yeah. He ran his socks off and whipping a ball in placed on Richarlison's head that he couldn't even bury. Like, I just think that lad's trying. If we're looking for a player of the season, and it's got to be him, but you need like an experienced player in there, and I think that's where for me, if it comes back to the likes of having 3 in midfield and having Alan in there, he's angry, he's aggressive. As long as he doesn't get booked early doors, he'll keep fighting, he'll keep driving, but they're all just spineless. The rest of them are spineless for me. They're just not. They just don't have it in the locker.
I think when Alan went off against it was Southampton, wasn't it? He went off at half time. I think that's when the game changed, because we were more or less in it against Southampton, but ended up getting beat. But I agree with you there. It's like, as a player, you should always be going home of a night, look yourself in the mirror and be going, did I give 100% today? And I think, barring Anthony Gordon, I think none of them can admit to that. None of them can say I gave 100%, which is worrying. Yeah.
Yeah, about that. That's also the problem, isn't it? And that's, I think, the worst part about Sunday probably was the fact that there was that level of realization, wasn't there, for possibly the first time this season, just how, we've spoke about it week in, week out, and as you touched on, Andrea, I think we sort of assume that over the duration, of the rest of the season, we pick up them points and you'd nick a few wins against teams like Wolves, or at least not lose the game. But that, especially with Watford winning and moving level on points with us, the sort of gravity of the situation really hits home, didn't it? And for as much as we still have got games in hand on the teams around us, the teams above us are starting to pull away, and the teams below us are picking up the little sort of wins and draws that you need to get out of trouble. So I just don't see a team in the quality-wise. I don't think that we're in the worst 3 teams in the league necessarily, but at this point in the season, it comes down to fight as much as anything, doesn't it? And that desire to get out of trouble. I just don't see that we've got that.
No, I mean, at the end of the game, a few of them throwing themselves to the floor, and then you had some people that were booing because they come over to clap the fans. Like, they should be saying sorry. Like, I don't blame Lampard at all, because I think he hasn't been there that long. We've said it every week when we've done the podcast, that he's only been there a short period of time, and you can see the difference he's made. I do think there are positives. I think he's between a rock and a hard place by who he picks, and even by tweaking the system, because he's changing every game because it's not working. And I think maybe at some point he just needs to pick a system and go with it, and then find the personnel. But I do think he's made changes. I do think, we only conceded 1. How many goals have we conceded this season? We only conceded 1 against City. We only conceded 1, so that's much better. But something that did annoy me yesterday is the way that they scored. Connor Cody is a centre half in the box. You don't leave him on his own. And if you do, Ben Godfrey, headers-wise, doesn't even challenge for the ball. He sits too far away. He decides to challenge at the last minute. He gets nothing on the man. And, that cost us, ultimately. Just, that kind of thing. How is he a Premier League player and he can't defend in the air? It's beyond me.
And we had another one of them, didn't we? And Julian Lescott couldn't even jump a header ball, for goodness sake.
But he had other things in his life.
I agree about Lampard.
Julian Lescott would probably be our top goal scorer this season, to be fair, wouldn't he, Moose?
And over them times of goal scoring centre halves.
Yeah. But yeah, no, just touching on, I know you're about to mention Lampard there, Andrea. So obviously when he came in, he brought probably a different style of play to what we'd seen under Benitez, who has obviously got blood on his hands for this season. Through the situation we're in at the moment isn't Lampard's fault, but Lampard's come in at a really difficult time and is trying to implement a slightly different style of play, a more possession-based style of play, without necessarily having the time to get the players in to do it, or at least bed those players in. You look at players like Van der Beek, who he's brought in, that he probably would be the axis of that team. Even Dele Alli, to an extent, who obviously came on the other day and looked woeful, but can't be fit. He hasn't played this season particularly, and he's not the type of player that you can just throw into that system, because you basically need the midfield to work around him, and just he's more the finishing product than he is the one to go and grab the game. So I do sympathise with him, but we haven't really seen that bounce in results, or necessarily performance over a consistent period. So what would you do if you were Lampard? Just try and solidify it, or do you back the defence to be good enough to do that, or do you pack the midfield? I really don't know what the answer is, looking at the players we've got and the team.
I think, judging by what Holgate said after the game yesterday, maybe that's the answer, what he's been told. I know it came out a little bit wrong the way Holgate said it, but he basically said, maybe not to go and win games, but just not lose them. So as it, especially who've we got? Burnley away and Watford away. They're the ones that you just can't afford to lose. You cannot be giving them 3 points, can you? But going back to Lampard, I think I do feel sorry for him, because as you say, he's come in and he's lost his 2 centre halves straight away, our 2 best ones. Godfrey and Mina through injury. But I'm hoping he's definitely the man for the job. You know, I look at it and I go, like in the transfer window, we had, so at the end, if we'd have still kept Benitez in the transfer window, he'd have been standing there with his arm around Sean Longstaff's shoulder, wouldn't he? Whereas, you know, Lampard's got Dele Alli and Van der Beek, so you know that'll do for me. The players he's going to attract, so as long as we're still in the Prem, that is.
Yeah, I still think he's the right man. I think he was brought in too late. Benitez should have gone earlier. The damage was pretty much done. I think for next season, he's and hopefully we avoid the drop. He's definitely still the right man. I think whether Dele Alli will return to the player that he was, I don't know, but I think he needs a full pre-season with him to get. I think the lad's got no confidence, and that's part of it because he hasn't played for such a long time. And I definitely think that Lampard and his team are the right move for moving forward. I just hope we can survive the drop, so he's got a chance in the Premier League, because I think our problems get a lot worse if we do get relegated, because Mashiri will probably try and offload us, and then who takes over, and all the players will jump ship, and it'll just be like even worse.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's the unthinkable, isn't it, going down? But at the same time, it's becoming increasingly likely as the more you watch us play. I completely agree about Lampard. You can't keep sacking managers, and essentially, I think consistently sacking managers every season is probably the reason that we are where we are, because you've jointly got an owner who's buying players off his own back. I mean, the El Ghazi signing looks more and more bizarre with every passing week, doesn't it? Because he's a player who's essentially never going to play for the club. What is he, in an ideal world, probably fifth choice winger in that team? I mean, you probably play Alex Iwobi. Not that I'm saying Alex Iwobi's a world beater by any stretch, but I wouldn't say he's much further down the pecking order than El Ghazi is at the minute. So, especially when you're in such dire need of a centre half, and it's so evident that you need a centre half or even a defensive midfielder, to go and fill one of your loan slots with El Ghazi just didn't make sense at the time, and looked even more ridiculous on deadline day when we're scrapping around for a centre half, and you'd have took anyone. You know, I'm not saying he'd necessarily have come, but players like Andreas Christensen and things like that who aren't getting games, you know, you could look at players like that throughout the transfer window if you're not filling up your loan signings with the owner's mates players. But yeah, as I say, the problems run far deeper than Frank Lampard. So hopefully there's not too much of a shadow cast on him over the next few weeks, regardless of how things go. Because I think everyone needs to stick together, don't they? Essentially, even if the players don't look up for the fight. But
there was a clip of him yesterday. I tried to pause it when I watched Match of the Day later on, and I thought, God, I don't think he was, but it looked like he was crying. And I'd be crying if I was him, because, like, do you know what I mean? It's like, what do you do? Because when you look at the league position and you look at, we've got 3 games in hand, but the points, like you say before, like Brentford's beat Burnley, and you go, well, that's good, Burnley got beat. But Burnley and Masters are getting out of the relegation zone. Brentford are ones that really we want to be losing points, so they take up another spot. But it just, we've said it before, it feels very 1994 to me. No, you don't really remember that, Mike, but, you know.
Well, I'll take your word for it. I think that 94 team had more fight in them, to be honest. But yeah, but you know, I think you've got to press on, haven't you? Obviously, Newcastle in the week. One thing that did pop up this week was the unfortunate case of JP Gabaman, who literally can't catch a break, can he? So obviously had a nightmarish few years at us. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't complaining too much with the wage package he was on, but you know, he's finally got his move, go and get some regular football, and he's ended up in the, you know, on the edges of a war zone. So one interesting thing which I was thinking about, obviously out of sheer desperation, is he's a player who has previously played centre half. I'm sure we wouldn't have let him go if we thought there was any inclination that he could play there. But is that something that could happen? Or I think if he comes back, are we shipping him off to AS Roma as is claimed in the papers today?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, ship him off.
I think for him to go, given that he's been there all season and he's played a big part and stuff like that, I think Lampard must have seen enough of him to go. I don't think he's ready or whatever it is. So I can't see him definitely not changing his position and going into centre half.
He was kind of fit under Carlo as well. I don't think Carlo gave him a look in, did he? So
No. So we're sticking with John Joe Kenny there then. Is that what you're telling me?
At least he put a tackle in, twice.
And I had a shot towards the end, even though I was screaming no.
I think everyone was screaming no, weren't they? But just I've got to say, from sat behind it in the park, and I did see it just flying off his boot into the top corner at one point when he lined up for it. But yeah, it wasn't
Going
to be.
back to '94, thought he was Barry Owen.
Well, we're obviously John Joe Kenny-less going into the Newcastle United game. So next up, Newcastle will move on to the FA Cup, which now seems pretty moot point, to be honest. Obviously, it'd be nice to have a day out at Wembley, but it could be the last time we get there before a playoff. So if we're looking at the Newcastle game first of all, what are we thinking about that? Do we think, if we're feeling confident going into it? I think one of the things which maybe has benefited us is the fact that Newcastle have picked up a few points recently. So as they pull away, maybe the game takes a little bit less significance for them than it does for us.
I think I don't usually agree with Jamie Carragher, but he said after the Spurs game we needed 4 points out of the next 2 home games, and obviously we got zilch. And I agreed with him. I was thinking hopefully we could get 6 points, and obviously the most now we can get is 3. I honestly feel if we get nothing out of Newcastle, that's it. I think they're the games that we've got to be winning. It's unthinkable if we don't pick up at least a point against them, but I think we need 3. They play 3 up top. I'd go 4 at the back. I'd bring Allen back in and have 3 in midfield so we can drop in to form part of a back 5 if we need that at times. But definitely got to change something. Definitely got to change something.
The thing, do you know what worries me most about the Newcastle game? I saw a tweet yesterday or last night from Don Hutchinson. He was chatting about their game against Chelsea yesterday, and he said he was saying how well he played, and he went, their effort was different class, and I thought, oh my god, their effort is different class. We know what. Look at our effort, and if their effort's going off the scale, then I'm really fearful for Thursday. But you never know. Stranger things have happened. I'd take a point now. I really would. I know that's terrible to say, but I'd take a point now.
What is a point enough?
No. But on the flip side of it, I can't see us after yesterday. I say it was just a shock to the system for me yesterday, and just can't see us getting any more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think their January business was even that good, to be honest. I think they bought well for the situation. I mean, Bruno Guimaraes is a player that will probably be there for the foreseeable. He's a really good signing, but the rest of the players they brought in was probably the right January business for a team down there, wasn't it? You're getting sort of yard dogs in who have done it before. Chris Wood, a great example, just them players who were up for the fight and sort of been around that position before. So it does on paper now look like a really difficult game. They were 9 unbeaten before Chelsea, and obviously, but I didn't see the highlights, but it looked like they should have had a penalty to me. Kai Havertz lucky to stay on, and then Chelsea winning it in the last minute was ominous, really, for Goodison on Thursday. But hopefully, under the lights, you never know. We can get a bit of an atmosphere together, and hopefully the players turn up as well as the fans.
Yeah, I think one of their good deals was bringing Trippier in at right back. I mean, I've got to be honest. I think we should have gone for him. He's Seamus can't play every game. Patterson's someone for the future. Isn't ready to play now. That's what we needed right now. We needed another right footer who can play, further up the pitch if he needed to, but put up full back. I think it's going to be a toxic atmosphere, particularly if they score first. It's just it's very depressing.
They've got Joe Linton in the centre of midfield, haven't they? I mean, who'd have thought that he was meant to be the striker to solve all the problems, and then couldn't hit a barn door, and now he's like, Glenn Hoddle in the middle of the pitch, there, isn't he?
He's been doing really well though, hasn't he? I can't remember what game I saw like a few weeks ago, and he was boss. He was hands down the best player on the pitch.
Yeah.
In front of goal, he never scores, but I'm sure he will do against us.
Well, yeah. On that positive note, I think I agree about going forward to back. I mean, I don't think we've got enough defenders to go 5 at the back, thankfully, on Thursday anymore. So, unless we're throwing one of the kids into the back, which would be quite the baptism of fire. I wouldn't be surprised to see him change it up a little bit. Maybe Gray's runner's race the other day. I don't think he looked particularly fit. I can't. As you say, I thought Anthony Gordon was absolutely knackered by the end of the game, but I don't think you can drop Gordon at the minute because I don't see where the creativity comes from, except for him. Owen comes back in for me, as you say, and then you just got to try and keep it tight, haven't you? Maybe sit quite deep and play on the break. I don't know what suits this team, to be honest, because I don't really know what we're good at the minute.
That's what I'm saying. It seems to be working, does it?
No.
But it's interesting how we started playing well, and I don't think any of us are his biggest fan, but Iwobi defensively is a joke, but works as soft off actually did all right, and he's not been there since. And I know things haven't been working, but like you say, Gray wasn't very good. He didn't look fit. DCL, even if he's available, he's not fit either. And I know Rondon only scored 2 against Boreham Wood, and I wouldn't particularly put him in the starting lineup, but he looks fit and he looks like he's shed a few pounds and he's in better condition. But I think you can't keep chopping and changing. Something's got to work, and it's got to work soon. A bit like when Ancelotti fell on the system with the 4 centre halves at the back, and it actually worked. Mm-hmm. We need to fall on something like that.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be completely surprised if we played Godfrey left back and went with Keane and Holgate in the middle again, because for as much as I don't think Mykolenko had a bad game the other day, ultimately the goal comes from him letting the cross in. And first half, I think he did all right. I think he doesn't look like he's going to bomb on like Luca Dean does or do anything particularly exceptional. It was a lovely ball over the top for Richarlison early doors, but he did all right. And then second half, I don't know if they doubled up on him or just sort of got a bit of an overload on that side, but he just looked a bit lost. He got skinned twice, let the cross in for the goal, and I think that's why he got hooked, to be honest, although I don't think he was having a particularly bad game. I think it ultimately, and over the course of a season, it's those little moments where you lose games and then ultimately get relegated. John Joe Kenny getting sent off is another one. You just need a little bit more experience in there. I know he's not old, neither's Holgate, but they've played a lot more games and they've got a bit of a wiser head on the shoulders, I think. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him play left back and just go with that slightly more solid back 4. But yeah, I mean, we'll see, won't we? That's all we can do.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think Godfrey will play left back. I think they played on Mykolenko straight from the kick-off in the second half. He nearly, he got skinned and he nearly conceded a penalty that was just outside the box. And I think they done the homework on him.
Yeah.
And we definitely need to look at on Seamus's side as well, because St. Maximin plays on the left, doesn't he? Like, who's his cover? Because against Spurs, when Seamus got done, Holgate was nowhere to be seen positionally, and if St. Maximin's there, I mean, he'll take his chances. We need Gordon tracking back, or does Alan sweep across? We don't want the same being done to Seamus on Thursday.
Yeah. But, well, we'll see, won't we? So, obviously, moving on from that, and maybe onto slightly less concerning matters, there was a ray of hope in our season, but now seems to be a massive distraction from trying to pick up 3 points somewhere in the next however many 10 games or something, which doesn't look likely. The FA Cup on Sunday, so presume after we obviously beat Newcastle and we're all on a high going into the weekend. How much emphasis do we put on the FA Cup? Do we presumably we've got to go for it? We haven't really got two teams to put out, so does that save the season or is it just a hindrance?
I'm not really bothered. I just think I'd just give a few of the kids a go for me. I just think it's going to be more of a hindrance, especially we've got like 12 games to go and another 3 to fit in, haven't we? At this rate, the FA or whoever, Premier League, will make us play probably, even if we get to the cup final, probably the Friday night before the cup final or something.
I think that the benefit that you can get from the cup, even though it is a pain now, it does give us an extra game when we have got so many to finish by the end of the season. I think the best scenario would be we go there, we play with less pressure, because it doesn't matter if we get kicked out the cup. We score a few goals and we win. And the pressure, I know there'll be pressure from us as fans there, but really, it's one of them games where it doesn't actually matter if you win or you lose. But if you win and you win convincingly and do it well, and it gives us confidence and the system works, as an example, and we score a few goals, then what can come out of that would actually be quite good. And that's all I'm open for. Like,
yeah, I completely agree. I think from the players' point of view, you can see how they're playing within themselves. Decore and Van der Beek the other day, two players who are typically, quite good on the ball, would take the ball in difficult situations. There was just no movement the other day at all, and I think that's because they know the importance of the game, and once you go 1-0 down, all you can do is lose by taking the ball in that position. With your sort of facing your own goal, 2 or 3 men closing you down. It's probably not the right way to play, is it, when you're in trouble? And I know we sort of went route one a lot of the time the other day, just hopeful balls, but maybe if you can have that Crystal Palace game where obviously there's no points on the line, and those midfielders even can just get a bit of confidence in the way that Lampard wants us to play. If we break the press a couple of times, that can have hopefully a good impact on the rest of the season, and sort of their confidence in how he wants to play, because I think Spurs was a big setback on that front. Obviously, we passed it round well for 15 minutes, and then as soon as they broke that, they just ran riot, didn't they? So, but
I think part of that, Mike, is the way in which they broke that. Like, the Oggy by Michael Keane sort of won like he was a beast of an Oggy. And how did he put in his own net too? It was the second game in a row where he cost us. I think then everyone around him starts doubting him, even like Pickford. His positional change because he's worrying about Michael Keane, the same for Holgate and the same for Seamus or Kenny, whatever side he was on. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think if Keane comes back into the side and Godfrey does go left back, then how's everyone going to be affected by that? Because we can see it in such a stupid manner. It's not like, it was a beast of a strike from outside the area by Kane. It was just ridiculous. It's like we've got no luck at all.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I don't think many people would have Michael Keane back in the team if there was anything else available, to be honest. But there's nothing else there, is there? As you say, I do agree completely about Godfrey aerially. I think that was one thing that I noticed the other day when we set up with the 5 at the back, even though we had 3 centre halves. Every time they went up for set piece, we just looked tiny. Holgate isn't really, hasn't got the right build for a centre half, in my opinion. And then either side of them, you've got Kenny and Godfrey, who, when they're up against Connor Cody and Dendoncker and Raul Jimenez and stuff, you're looking around the team wondering where you're going to win an header, and it's usually Richarlison, if anyone, even defensively. So it's that's probably the only thing that Michael Keane brings you, and I think up against Chris Wood, who I assume it'll be on Thursday, maybe you just need somebody to just go and at least challenge with him. Not that I expect Keane to win many of them, but at least put him under pressure in the air. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way he goes with it.
Yeah, that's where Mina's a massive loss, isn't it? Because he's best in the air ends of the pitch.
Yeah. I think he's got probably the best distribution as well from the back out of the lot of them. It doesn't look like when he's playing he looks tremendously gammy, but he's usually effective to some degree, isn't he? So he has been a big loss, but unfortunately, we've known you can't get more than 10 games a season out of him for years. So to be so reliant on him was idiotic, realistically.
Yeah.
But we'll if I know we did it the other day, are we going to do score predictions this time, or do we want to leave it?
Every time you say we're going to win, we lose. So
are we going to say we're going to lose then? Are we playing the reverse psychology game?
Well, at least we wouldn't look as stupid, would we?
You got the right score, Mike, just the wrong way around.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I specified what way around did I, or was it? Yeah. I think
pinching your scores again. Go on. Go on.
You abstaining, Dawn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not me.
It's going to be 1-1 on Thursday.
1-1. No, I'll rob your score then. Yeah, I'll go 2-1 Everton. See, as I got the right score this week, I'll just specify that this week, definitely 2-1 to Everton, and we hope for the best there.
I hope you're right.
So do I. I need to be. But yeah. So yeah. Anything else to add? Any words of wisdom, or are we quite happy with? Well, I wouldn't say happy, but happy with our evaluation of how in trouble we are.
Yeah, I've calmed down a bit since last night. So I'm more optimistic today.
That's good.
Yeah. Keep the faith.
It's essentially a therapy. This is essentially a therapy session, isn't it now?
I've had second defeat. I've been on twice. Second defeat.
Yeah, don't worry. I've been on all season. It hasn't been much better.
Can't even remember how many games we've won, but it's
no. I probably started at the end of September, in which time we've won twice. So let's not read into that.
But, like Benitez's record.
I know, yeah.
6-all game. We've got to win another 5 to stay up. So
we only have to win 5.
I reckon 37 should keep us up. So
37 seems a long way away at the minute.
Yeah, I can't see where the 5 are coming from. Not when you've got Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool. You've got Watford have got to play Burnley, Leeds, us, Brentford, or all at their place. And if they keep getting points, they're one of the ones you had nailed on to go down a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It just shows you what shoring up a defence can do, though, doesn't it? Because they're just grinding out the results. Maybe, hopefully, if Calvert-Lewin comes back, he can't be far off, Connie. So, maybe if he comes back and scores a few, injects a bit of, bit of hold-up play up there, with Richarlison playing off him with, Gordon, wherever you can fit him in. Basically, I think attacking-wise, that gives you a lot more options, doesn't it? Hopefully, that can see us through this mire. But yeah, well, Thanks everyone for joining. I'm sorry we couldn't have been much more upbeat, but hopefully we can all wallow in each other's pity.
Oh,
Yeah.
dear.
So fingers crossed for Thursday and then the FA Cup game, and hopefully when you join us next week, we'll be on our way to Wembley and 3 points closer to safety. We can live in that world.
Yeah.
In that
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for watching. You've been watching the Gwladys Beat Podcast. Hopefully see you again next week. Bye.